And actually, when I got up there, I heard a voice saying to me, "We don't know you here." It sent chills down my spine, and all around me it was very unsettling. I felt like I could hear people moaning. I said to it, I saw Peter's Bay." It replied, "No, that's not possible. Simply because I heard in the car that you were going to die near Peter's Bay." It was quite strange. Peter's Bay knew things about me. Given what I'm experiencing today, I have no doubt about the mercy of God. I had a very serious accident, a major and inoperable brain hemorrhage, something that brought me to the gates of death. In fact, I didn't really realize what was happening to me. It started with a headache. I lay down, and then at one point, things got quite strange. It was 2006. I was 33 years old, and yes, with Christ as well. I experienced a death and a rebirth, you could say. Wow, I had no idea what was happening to me that day. So, I had a massive headache. I lay down. It was quite difficult to deal with. A lot of things slipped away from me at that moment. Suddenly, I remember being slightly above the room. I passed through the glass. The window was closed. I went through the glass. I found myself outside in my backyard, a bit unusual. At that moment, I thought this was pretty strange. At first, I was still quite connected to reality, so I knew this wasn't normal. And I found myself in an ambulance, I assume, because to my right, there was someone in white talking to me asking, "How are you?" So I figured I was in an ambulance, considering the guy was in white. "Are you okay? Do you know where you are?" And then, little by little, I was no longer in the ambulance. I was still with him, still on my right, but I was about, I'd say, 20 meters above the ground, in a neighborhood I knew well in Paris, because I had lived in the 12th arrondissement. So I'm there above the neighborhood, and he's still next to me. He says to me, "Do you know where you are?" Well, I was in the 12th arrondissement. So I replied, "Oh yeah, it's the Porte Dorée," but we were quite high up. I started flying over the Museum of African and Oceanic Art, so to me, it didn't seem strange at all. "Oh really, didn't that seem strange to you? Were you like outside of your body?" "Well, probably, but you didn't really feel it. It felt normal to you, actually." It didn't even seem abnormal to me. I kept chatting with him. I was saying, "Over there, that's the Porte Dorée. There's the entrance to the Bois de Vincennes." I was describing everything as if I were walking around, you see. But still being 20 meters above the ground was a little high, you know. It didn't bother me, really. I was just there. You were really in the present moment. You weren't thinking, "Hey, I had a headache yesterday." You didn't even remember that. I had completely forgotten, focused on the present moment. I was above the Porte Dorée. Oh yeah, and there was that guy dressed in white, asking me 2 or 3 questions, like a nurse a bit. Yeah, I really thought that because at first he asked me, "Are you okay? Do you know where you are?" I guess if he was a nurse, he must have been wondering if I was still conscious, asking questions to see if I knew where I was. Well, I didn't know where I was. I was above the Porte Dorée. And compared to a dream, for example, is it a bit like when you dream, or is it? It's exactly like when you dream. I found myself really in dreamlike situations. When you move forward and can't quite move, you see, but not really. You hear, but it's not exactly sound. In fact, I don't know if that guy was talking to me. I don't know if he was a guy, really, that nurse. I didn't know if he was speaking with words that I could hear, or if we were communicating. In any case, we were having a conversation, okay? That's for sure, we were having a conversation. Maybe an angel. Well, at one point, I asked myself that question after my return when I woke up. I told Deed I have a crazy story to tell you about an angel. If you're going to go that far, you're going to be. So this character, let's just call him a character, starts asking me, "Have you been here before?" I say to him, "Yes, I used to live here." So we talk, and then, at some point, it gets pretty uncomfortable. I feel his presence fading. I sense he's still there, but he doesn't speak to me anymore. And around me, it becomes really unsettling. It's like I'm hearing people moaning. I felt like there were many people around, not right next to me, but a lot of people nearby, roughly at ground level, but I couldn't make out the ground level. The landscape had disappeared. I couldn't see anyone. I heard distorted sounds, very distressing, like a nightmare come to life. No landscape, no one talking to me, strange noises all around. Everything slowed down, like sounds overlapping each other. In terms of vision, what did you see? Mostly black. No, more like bright. No images, but more like bright light. More about sounds and sensations. Very distressing sounds and feelings. So instinctively I reach upward. It seemed quieter up there. Strange. Okay. At that time, I wasn't a believer. Well, I used to be a believer as a kid. I went to a convent school, so I had some religious education. Okay, but I was far from God then. For example, no, you didn't. I'd occasionally pray when I was worried. Lord, oh yes, kind of a distant tradition, right? Yeah, really? More like a distant tradition? That's it. I remembered that the Lord had existed in my life. And at that moment, did your faith come back? Not really. Absolutely not. I had nothing to hold on to. You were really in the present moment, not thinking about anything else. Exactly. I was in the present, very unsettling, without thinking about anything else. Oh man! So, I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe it's not there for everyone, but above it seemed more peaceful, maybe brighter and less noisy. So instinctively, I felt like I had to rise up. I'm not exactly sure how I managed it. Tried to lift myself a little. And then I really felt like I was breaking through this anxious layer. That's the right word. I was coming out of it a bit. Oh, wow. I pushed forward, and when I reached the top, I heard a voice say, "We don't know you here." Oh, wow. That gave me chills down my spine. Ah, death. That was even harder than the groans, really. Oh, yeah. I sank back down, like a heavy weight, Just, oh, wow, going back down. So I descended into the dreadful layer with all those people who... I put that back on again. What is that? And I didn't ask myself whether it was hell or purgatory. I only asked myself that much later. Later. Yeah? So here I was back in that layer of groans and anxiety. You, who went back down. Really? Because that phrase was really hard. That's right, that phrase. You wanted to escape from it. It was. No, it totally ejected me, Here. Oh yeah, no door, no light at the end, but the voice. That was the verdict. Up until then, there wasn't really an image. It was more about sound, the sounds of images, no faces. Almost like a fog, like in those nightmares where you walk without really. Yes, a bit of a white fog, something like that. Oh yes, I see, yes. So, I found myself in this place with people who were groaning. It was truly terrifying. But then at some point, the fog cleared a little below, as if it was parting. And then, I made out something I recognized. At that time, I was wearing a pearl necklace that had been given to me. And I see my pearl necklace passing through someone's hands, almost as if, like someone is passing them along, and that's something I recognize. I hold on to that. It's my necklace. All around me, there's anxiety. So my necklace is something familiar, something that comforts me. Then, I lean in a little to figure out what's happening, who these people holding my necklace are. There are several of them, whispering together, and I see those pearls running through their fingers. So I try to lean in closer to these people who don't seem to be groaning or suffering. And as I keep leaning down, 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 I find myself. What is this? I see a beautiful window to the side. I'm lying down in a room, in a bed, maybe a hospital bed. Obviously. Yeah, it's really clean. It's bright white. There's no sense of strangeness anymore. Everything sounds like beeps, maybe some hallway noises. That's it. I'm back. I've come back. Actually, I have a second chance. I don't know where I was sent because up there they didn't know me. Do you see what I mean? Big anxiety. Oh yeah, so I wake up. I don't know if I continue with this thing. Yeah, I wake up in this room. In this room, I'm lying in bed. I feel like I'm tied up. I can't move. I'm kind of bound, you know. And at the foot of my bed, there's a guy, an old man, a really old guy. I'm smiling inside because this old man sitting at my bed is like a sketch. Now that I think about it, it feels like a sketch. This old guy at the foot of my bed with his old beard, he's really old, like ancient. When that person who was next to me all in white at one point, I think about the moment of coming back down. You know, I called it the art of coming back down. The art of level 0 descent. When I came back down at one point, I know that this person in white told me. He was black, like African, dressed all in white. He told me, when you wake up, if you're hungry, ask. Call for me. Have them call me. My name is Ange, and I'm going to give you some rice pudding. I really love rice pudding. It's so comforting. It's what we call comfort food in English. It's the cozy food for kids, little roly-poly, and he once said that to me. Okay. I forgot it by the time I got there, so I wake up in this room. It must be a hospital room. Everything is clean. There are beeping sounds. I can hear people talking and passing by in the hallway. Then this guy is sitting at the foot of my bed. I look at him, an old man, you know. He looks at me too. Seems nice, kind of. He gives me a little compassionate smile. Then he says, I came to tell you I'm leaving, but you're staying. Laughing to myself, I think. This guy, he looks like Life Peter, and he's singing me a Serge Gainsbourg song. It's all mixed up. He really does look like Life Peter. That's not exactly what I'm thinking. And what is he doing sitting at the end of my bed? What am I even doing in this bed? Everything's mysterious. I don't know where I am. But what is this guy who looks like Life Peter doing telling me things like that? That's a secret I'll keep to myself, but he says, you know, those things? So I think, yeah, Peter admits it. The guy who knows something I've never told anyone must be a priest. Plus, he says some pretty spiritual things. He tells me, when you wake up, don't be afraid. You're going to be all alone, but don't be afraid, it's going to be okay. I'm here. I see the machines around me, and I think, what is this? I'm in the hospital, actually. Then my mother arrives. When I see her face, I think, this is serious, because I hadn't realized what condition I was in, but I was really in bad shape. There, I was in my body. I woke up. I was awake in my body. I must have been in terrible condition. Judging by my mother's face, poor thing. I even thought, I'd rather be in my place than in hers. It looks terrible. And I told her, I've seen Life Peter. I was feeling a bit disconnected. A little, she said. It's not going well. It's not going well. I've seen Life Peter. She told me, no, that's not possible. I said, well, no, it's not possible, I know that. But the guy looked too much like him. He had his voice, his face, everything. Totally, even the outfit. She told me no, that's not possible. For the simple reason that I heard in the car he had just died. Peter. Ah. So, after that I thought, oh yeah, I stay, and he goes. It's still a bit cinematic, all this. Ah, kind of like you are, we could say. You crossed paths in that passage. We crossed paths. That's what I think, especially since I found out much later that Abbé Peter was involved with his foundation in Charenton-le-Pont, which was exactly where I was hanging around. You know the Porte d'Oreille, that's Charenton-le-Pont, the Bois de Vincennes, all that. It's the neighborhood. And he lived in a housing project, I believe, with his secretary in Charenton-le-Pont. So it's likely that if people can visit before they leave, maybe he went to say goodbye to his secretary. And that's where we crossed paths, above the African Museum. Ah, yeah, very strange. Abbé Peter knew things about me, very intimate things, as if we had access during the passage of death to certain knowledge. Yeah, maybe so. And I think we do have access to some knowledge because when I came back, I had access to some astonishing insights. Do you still hold on to them today? Oh no, everything gradually faded away. For a year, I experienced truly paranormal phenomena. Do you have examples like that? Bilocation, crazy things. I knew a lot of things. Oh yeah, I was very aware of a lot of things. My mother often used to say to me, I really felt like I was connected to something that allowed me to access information. All the information in the world seems stored there. That's how I perceive it. Okay, it's strange. That's it. I didn't see a light, but I got insights, man. Oh yeah. So how did it go? What happened in the weeks, then the months that followed, and then the years? At first, it was dreadful. It was incredibly hard. I was in the hospital for 7 months. 7 months? Oh yes, yes, because before that, your near-death experience, how long did that last? My near-death experience lasted 13 days. You actually woke up 13 days later? But what was your sense of time during that period? Also 13 days. Even today, I still have a huge problem with time. I have no sense of it. Okay. I don't understand why I go there when time doesn't pass. Oh yes, especially since the near-death experience. Yeah. Since then, I have no concept of time. As if everything exists only in the present moment. Everything is frozen. I have the present, the past, and even stranger. The past is no longer a moment in time, but a place. Can I explain that simply? Let's say the places, the spots from my past where I've been. I feel like I'm still there right now. So the present and the past would be an eternal present, but in another location. As if it still exists, maybe in the eyes of God. Did you experience that before, actually? Maybe we can say that it was as if everything was questioned. Time was not linear at all, like we usually think. Time was really a space, not a timeline. I have been to places from my past, like where I lived in Brittany, and when I go there, I seriously feel like I could run into a version of myself. That's pretty strange, like, okay? Oh yeah, so no sense of time. But dear, for example, during the phase when you flew over the city, how many stages were there? The stage with the moaning, right? Yeah. How long did the stage with the voice last? Well, no, you really can't compare it in terms of duration. I wouldn't know, dear, but it felt long because it was complicated. You just wanted to get out of there. I wanted to get out. When they told me, you've been here for 13 days and we don't know where, I thought, wow. I didn't feel like I had spent 13 days. So you realize there was a before and an after. What happened afterward? Well, to start with, something really strange happened. Yes, it was when I woke up, and I could see it was the hospital, and the nurse was there. The first thing that happened was that there was a nurse sitting next to my bed, who must have been the nurse on duty, and I could hear what she was thinking. That was super weird. I didn't see the light at the end of the hallway, but I saw some really strange things. For example, this nurse was sitting next to me, and I could hear her as if she were speaking. It was really like I was hearing her voice, and she was thinking, isn't it unfortunate to leave people in such a state? They'd be better off dead, even though she wasn't moving her mouth at all. And I was like, what the hell is she thinking? Oh yeah. And I was looking at her, and I could still hear her thinking. She was thinking about really practical things like, 2 more hours and then I'll get a coffee. And how did you know she was, well, thinking that? But she didn't say it because she wasn't moving her mouth, for example, right? She wasn't moving her lips. And what she started to say, or rather, what I started to hear, was exactly the kind of thing you think in your head, you know. 1 more hour and then I'll have a coffee. I don't remember exactly, but I know there was a moment when she said, 1 more hour and then I'll have a coffee. And I could see the break room where she would go to have her coffee. I knew it wasn't real. You were really connected to the spiritual side, you know? Kind of like Deet, like angels who can read thoughts and pass through walls, all that kind of stuff. It was almost like you actually had access to that during the first few months. That's right. Well, maybe just the first few weeks. I'm not sure how long it lasted. I stayed in the hospital for 7 months. I had plenty of time to go through those strange experiences. And were you talking about it? Were you wondering why you were having these bizarre experiences? Did you start questioning their meaning? Did you begin asking questions about religion? Well, I started calling my family to ask them to stop the morphine because it was just too strange. I stopped the morphine. I was in total panic. It was awful. I was seeing terrifying things, like everything. Oh yeah. And at one point, the nurse said, "No, there's no morphine. It's your brain reconstructing itself. It'll just take some time." My sister came into the room one day and asked me, "How are you?" I said, "It's terrible. It's horrible. I feel like I'm on strong drugs, something really powerful." I was truly in another world. She asked, "But how long has this been going on?" I said, "Since the beginning." I had woken up in this absurd scenario. In fact, when my sister walked in, I was talking to a nurse, asking, "Can you please tell Andir to come see me? Because I thought he was a guy from the hospital, you know. The one who had talked about the roulette, right there." "Yeah." And then she said, "I remembered a black guy in a white coat." And she said, No, there's no one like that in the department." And then, at that moment, my two sisters walked into the room. And my little sister, or my big sister, I'm not sure, said, "If there's an angel, we've seen him." So I said, "There he is. He's coming. He's going to come comfort me. You know. He's the only one who understands me, who knows what I've been through." And the nurse said, "No, there's no one like that here." And one of my sisters, Deet, said, "Yes, be hungry. She'll eat." Wow. He was obsessed with food. It's a bit like, can we? I don't know how you interpret this. Was it, for example, an angel who took on human form, a human appearance, to comfort you and your sisters? Apparently, yes, that was the case. I don't know why he appeared as an African man wearing a white jacket. Well, the white jacket might be angelic, symbolizing purity. But honestly, I really thought it was an angel who had taken human form to come and console us all. Wow. But I never saw him again, though. And roulette, did you? Was it a dish you liked as a child, for example, that brought you comfort? Yeah. It was the comforting side. Something to bring a bit of comfort, maybe. Yeah. And then, well, I wouldn't be able to eat for a while. Plus, that was because I wouldn't be able to swallow with the tube and all. And probably this story about roulette means wanting to eat, wanting to swallow, wanting to regain a little bit of hope that things will get better, you know, that you'll get better physically. In the early days. Oh yes, it wasn't guaranteed. It wasn't guaranteed. Well, I did see a Bay Peter. I saw an angel. I saw a Bay Peter, and then up there they told me, "We don't know you here." And when I woke up on my bedside table, there was the Bible, because my religious family. My mother had prayed a lot for me. This might shed some light on the importance of prayer. Prayer. Maybe that's what I saw. The string of beads that was lying there. Probably it was because you said you had a string of beads before. It was really a necklace. There you go. Oh yes, but actually maybe this pearl necklace brought me back to the recent events in my life, because I was wearing it when I had my accident. I was probably still wearing it. Person who called for help. So maybe the pearl necklace was also a connection to my final moments, the last people around me. In any case, this pearl necklace today, when I look at it, I see a rosary. Because I was told that many people prayed for me. My whole family prayed. My friends did too. In fact, when you saw those people praying with the necklace, you saw your loved ones in prayer. Indeed, it was the image, the parable. I don't know exactly how to say it. The image of prayer. Maybe that's how it took shape in my mind, stringing the rosary like it was a pearl necklace. In any case, thanks to prayer, I came back. I don't know where I would have gone otherwise, because if they couldn't see me up there, they might have put me in a coffin. I was heading very low. Oh, wow. So when I woke up, there was a Bible by my side, and a nurse said, looking at the Bible, "Do you believe in God?" Timidly, I said, "Yes." I wasn't sure back then. I wasn't very religious. She said something like, "Well, given your condition, believing in God is a bit." She probably just thought that, actually, now that I think about it. Yes. It was harsh to say, so I replied, "If I didn't believe in God, I might not be here today. Indeed, it was time for me to get my life straightened out." From that moment, I began reading the Bible. I'm telling you this because where they don't know my name, next time, I hope they'll recognize me. Oh yes, so you realize then that God must exist. That means God exists, and you wanted to meet him, to move forward? Well, if they didn't want me then, it's probably because I hadn't kept my promises to God. And if the Bible is placed beside me when I wake up, maybe it's time for me to reflect a little on life. Ah, yes, all right. So this was a few weeks or a few months after the awakening, or maybe even the day of the awakening. I can't quite remember. Yeah, I have no idea. Yes, that's right. It's hard. Even today, if you ask me what day it was, I have no idea. Yes. I spent 7 months in the hospital. During those 7 months, I lived like someone who didn't really believe in God that much. Well, I had a little angel statue nearby. I often looked at it thinking, no, this comforts me. My family visited me often, so I hadn't started reading the Bible yet. I was really preoccupied with thoughts like, is someone going to come visit me? What am I doing here? At first, since my body was completely paralyzed, I believed I was tied down. So I thought, I can't move. That's it. I wasn't well. I was anxious. In the hospital, you either don't eat, or eat poorly. People are more or less friendly. Well, the nursing staff was very kind. No denying that, but I was very anxious. And then, when I left the hospital after 7 months, that's when the conversion began. Ultimately, it took some time. Nevertheless, while I was in the hospital, I talked about God quite a bit because I was aware that God existed. I knew people had prayed for me, and I understood how important that was. I had met a guy in the cafeteria, an African man named Mr. D, because he was nice. And I said, listen, in Lyon, there's no need to pray for me. My whole family prays for me. Pray for the others. There are so many people around us in really serious conditions. Pray for them. Ah, your family prays. You believe in God. So we started talking about God at the table, which isn't really accepted in hospitals. It was a rehabilitation center, not a hospital. It was a rehabilitation care center. And there, I began talking about God to everyone. It's incredibly important. It's real hope. For me, oddly enough, it lifts me up, so it must uplift everyone. I was talking about God to everyone, and then one day someone told me, hey, you need to stop with God. I admit, it's really important to talk about God in a place like this. I was really trying to defend my point because it genuinely gave me hope. And at that moment, we were talking about God around midday. The cook came over to join us. He said, oh, that's great. You're believers. That made him happy too. They told me, if you talk about God in the cafeteria, it's not going to end well. We might have to make you eat alone in your room. Wow, it's noisy outside. So I replied, I won't be alone. I'll be with God. Yeah, and then they said, she's unshakable. At the beginning, was it already Jesus or God in general? I had drifted away from God a bit because in our conversation, it was God. We were talking with a Muslim who said, our God is called this. What's your God called? So I spoke about God and remembered this phrase, we are never alone because we are with God. And I said, I won't be alone. And yeah, I spent time with God or with Jesus. I'm not exactly sure. When I got out after 7 months, I didn't have many friends back home. People were kind of. It was complicated because of the illness, the accident. People were a bit scared. So many distanced themselves. And the only friend who really stayed was a strong believer. He was a prayer warrior. Jesus with all kinds of references. He called him Christ this, Christ that. And then one day he came to see me. I was in a terrible state. I was paralyzed. I didn't know where I was, whether I was in the hospital or at home. And Ben came in and said to me, if your cross is too heavy to bear, give it to Jesus. I said, well, that's about it for me, Jesus. It's been a while since I've really talked to him. Having him carry my cross is a bit bold, isn't it? He looks at me and says, if it's been a while, then he'll be happy to see you. Ah, there we go. I have a greeting. Someone will be glad to see me. And then in desperation I said, "Oh, Jesus, come to my aid. I'm paralyzed. I have no friends. I can't manage anything. Help." And barely a week later, I was standing up. I started to walk. I was making progress. I had joy, supernatural joy. I had no income. I was relying on my family. I couldn't walk. I couldn't eat. I was really at rock bottom. You had made me lose everything. Yeah. When I said, "Jesus, help me carry my cross." Yes, if you don't mind, I don't find it very classy to ask that of someone you don't talk to much. And yet, it's supernatural joy. I was joyful all the time. Let's go for it. Here we go. Whoa! Even while seeming crazy on the outside, even though I wasn't really a courageous person before. Whoa! But now, courage multiplied by 10, people were really amazed, you know. Whoa! And this joy, has it never left you since? Or were you always very joyful anyway? Just as joyful today, yes. It's impressive. No, it's a supernatural joy that has never left me. But today I read the Bible regularly. I immerse myself in it every day. I have a real connection with the Lord. I am a believer. I practice. I pray. I feel a true presence. And in church, too Catholic. Was there the moment with Jesus first, then the step towards the church? Or did it happen at the same time? Yes. Because at first, it might not have been Protestantism. No, not at all. I've always been Catholic since I went to Catholic school as a child, and my mother was Catholic because of her marriage in France. Well, we were Catholic, but not very practicing. We believed in God a little, just a little, you know. Yeah, but now, God is really there, you know. And Jesus is extremely close, you know. Mary, they are very present today. Whenever I want. I don't want to bother them, though. Whenever I have a problem, because I rarely have issues. Well, I really messed up my knee. Talk about a problem, right? But glory be to God, I keep walking anyway. No, it's true. It's about giving everything to Jesus. Take the reins of my life. I don't want to control anything anymore. That's truly how I feel. Take the reins of my life. I don't want to control anything anymore. I'm in the pit. Do with me what you will. I told myself, give this to Jesus. It's not a big risk because we know he's good. Wow. Oh, and in the end, there really was a before and an after. Today, how do you see this event? Well, the accident itself. And then we can talk about him, but first, the accident. Well, it really changed your life because now you have more difficulties walking. The accident really changed my life. I have a lot of difficulties walking. My entire left side is paralyzed. I have some cognitive balance issues. Well, I have some things that are pretty bothersome. But surprisingly, I still have this mysterious joy. Oh yes, which means it doesn't bother me that much. And do you think you would have preferred that this accident never happened so you'd remain as you were? Or sometimes no? I often refer to this phrase from St. Paul, which says, "All things work together for good for those who love God." Yes, but I love God now. Even this accident contributes to my well-being because I've met so many people. I've drawn closer to the church. I've started reading the Bible. I'm close to God, and I find my life is so much simpler than before. It's powerful to be able to say that about such a serious accident. To be able to be in this joy and, so to speak, bless God ultimately, because it brought you back. I don't think everyone experiences it like that after a serious accident, but I really feel lucky. The advice my friend Ben gave me was a great piece of advice. If your cross is heavy to bear, entrust it to the Lord. Wow! And I thought to myself at first, no, I'm not going to do that. That's bold. But actually, yes, I was so uncertain. Just know that this is advice more generally for those listening to us. If we have heavy burdens, to entrust them, just as you were told. You really felt, in fact, that you were freed from that moment. when you entrusted your cross. Immediately, at that very second, it was extraordinary. It was miraculous. That was the moment the miracle happened. Oh yeah, it's incredibly impressive. And about the ND itself, did you revisit it afterward? I really felt that everything I experienced during that ND made sense. I mean, this place of anguish and groaning, I initially wondered if it was purgatory. I questioned myself, wondered if it was hell because it scared me so much. Oh yes, what do you think today then? Do you believe it was hell or purgatory? I don't know if purgatory is that terrible, since it's still a place where we're allowed to purify ourselves to enter the kingdom. Yeah. There, I didn't purify. I didn't gain access to the kingdom. Yeah, it wasn't a long time anyway. Maybe I simply wasn't ready yet. Yeah, but at the same time, it was so... I didn't see any demonic things or horrible things. I saw nothing like that. When I woke up, I didn't see anything either. Mostly, it was the groans, the anguish. Maybe it wasn't hell after all, but it certainly wasn't a joyful place either. Do you sometimes hear about people who have had a negative game? Would you say your ND was more negative? Or do you think you didn't really go through a negative ND? Well, I think so, yeah, because sometimes when I heard ND testimonies where people say, I was fine, I was in a place where I felt everyone loved me. When I came back to life, I was angry because I wanted to stay. Well, I can tell you, I wouldn't have wanted to stay. Yeah. Are you glad to have been given a second chance? Oh yeah, I was glad to have a second chance. And this word, or, well, who is it that refuses or grants entry to the afterlife? Is it St. Peter? Is it St. Michael? I have a strong connection with St. Michael. I didn't know. I don't know if he speaks St. Michael, but he was very present in my life at a time when things were complicated, and I was getting many signs from St. Michael. This could be the subject of another testimony. It's a big one. Yes. I can talk about 2 angels. Oh wow, that's really interesting. No, but it's actually very rich. Yes, there are. And so, if I had 2 or 3 more questions, are you afraid of death now? Oh no, I'm no longer afraid of death. As a child, it was something that worried me quite a bit. Yeah, I think it's normal to have questions about death. It didn't hurt me. It didn't scare me. The moment of passing is truly nothing at all. But there was a moment when I was lying in bed thinking, I have a headache. Vincent. Then I was hovering over the area without questioning anything. No, instantly death doesn't scare me. But I think you do need to prepare for it the right way. Yes. Because what makes death not scare you today? Is it particularly your faith, your assurance? But if you didn't have that, what if you had to go through it again? Because that's what scared me, what you experienced. Because what I saw wasn't great. But when I know what we are promised and I believe that my name is up there, and if I'm not recognized, I believe that with the faith I have now if I die, maybe someone will say to me, here you are again. Well, this time you can come in. Made progress. I think I've made progress. Yeah, I've made progress. Yeah. And has that changed your perspective on the purpose of life a bit? And about? Have you changed your priorities in life, actually? In relation to? Totally. Oh yeah. Before, my life was about being a good person, having friends, having interesting things to share. I have some really interesting things to share. No. Yeah. No, it's nothing like that anymore. Now, the first priority is really to be aligned with the word of the Lord. Just align. We can make mistakes. We are sinners. That's normal. It's important to do your best to have good intentions toward others, to be willing, and to put your life in order so that it unfolds in a sacred way. Truly sacred. And do you still manage to believe in, well, how should I put it, in God's mercy? Because did the Lord seem harsh to you during this experience? Not at all. I think he appeared just. There's no doubt about that. Oh yes, I was just told that we didn't know here what, which was totally true. First of all, I never went to church. I never opened the Bible. I hardly ever thought about the Lord. In fact, he didn't seem severe to you, just no doubts. since he still allowed me to come back. So, it's like living a second chapter of life. It's like I was given a second chance, like a second life. So, for example, someone who would hear this, but who wouldn't have a second. Do you think that person, if they said, well, yes, if they ask for forgiveness, would they be welcomed? Or, but I'm certain of it. I'm absolutely certain when I compare the life I have today to the life I had before. Today, I live without worries. I have a fulfilling life. Sure, I may not move quickly and I have pains, but it's not a tragedy. Before, I had pains that were real pains, not Well, I had quite a bit of pain. It wasn't joyful. Do you see? Does it create a fear about people who die without faith, since you had that experience when you didn't have faith? Oh yes, you know that it can help them really in this. If someone is dying, pray for them because I know what that feels like. Intercession. Just a bit for the... Interceding is super important. The souls in purgatory, that's extremely important. I pray for the souls in purgatory. Yes, right now, yes. You have to be very sensitive. You surprise me completely. And I'm telling you, it makes sense, you see. It's not just a church thing when we say, pray for the souls in purgatory. Besides, it's almost All Saints' Day today. All Saints' Day is tomorrow. We're recording this on the eve of All Saints' Day. Yes, we need to pray for the loved ones who have passed, for our dead. Yeah. So today, since you fully returned to the Catholic Church, but there are also people who often use NDEs to connect with the afterlife, saying, yes, what is it like? And have you ever been tempted to explore energies or things like that? How did that become clear for you? To be honest, at first, I was taken to see a lot of people because I was paralyzed from head to toe and in a lot of pain. I was brought to see energy healers, you know, what do you call them? The bone setters. I live in Brittany as well. What's a bone setter? A bone setter is someone who realigns bones by manipulation, you know? Or like mediums, fire eaters. No, not exactly. The bone setter is somewhat related. That's still in that realm, but they suggested I go see healers, a magnetizer, and... At first I went. I was in so much pain. They call it neuropathic pain. I had such pain that I thought, oh, I'd be willing to see pretty much anyone. Yeah, at first, I went. Well, in hindsight, the pain, it's not really that bad to see bone setters and all that. No, that's not a good idea. Yeah, no, it doesn't seem right to me. And regarding Catholic faith and your ND, does it feel like... Does your ND perfectly align with your Catholic faith? Or are there little things where you wonder, how do you reconcile all of that? Has it ever made you question your faith, especially your Catholic faith, or not at all? On the contrary, it fits perfectly. I don't know if you see what I mean. The experiences I've had didn't make me doubt anything, as I found myself in a place that felt like purgatory. And the gates to paradise were closed to me because, in truth, I wasn't pure enough to enter. You have to be incredibly pure to get up there. Now, looking at what I'm going through today, I have no doubt about God's mercy. My Catholic faith has been greatly strengthened by this, because I'm handicapped, suffering, yet extremely happy. And I believe I have no doubts left. And even when tough moments come, I know that God is not the source of those difficulties. Before I used to think, if God exists, why is there war in the world? Many people think that way, but that's not God's doing. Regarding the wars in the world today, I know God is merciful and that He is intervening. He intervenes in many situations. There are moments when you share a smile, a glance, a kind word with someone. He's already there. Well, I have a phrase to share. If you are someone fighting against death, someone seriously ill, you need to pray. You must pray with faith. And not just pray mentally, but really pray from the heart, even if it means breaking down in tears and crying out, "Please, have mercy, help us." Well, thank you, Sam. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you.